And it says we're live. Hello, everybody. Welcome to BioBridge. And we're going to be talking about BioJapan. How's everybody doing? We've got a full house of three of us. I'm kind of high tension right now because, oh my God, am I tired? All right, Ibrahim, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just got back from Vancouver, but um, it's
You
evening
should be more
here, so
tired
I've
than me.
recovered. I've recovered. Yeah.
Fantastic. We've got a special guest today. The perfect guest for an interview on
Not that
BioJapan.
special. I tell you that.
Not that special? All right, I'll take back a few specials then. How you doing, Tim?
I'm good. How are you? You good?
Not too bad. Not too bad. So I'll spare the long version of the intro with Tim, but Tim and I we've known each other for what, 30 years or so? Or 30 months or so?
Yeah, we. I guess we've really known each other for a couple of years, right? I think
Yeah,
we
yeah.
we
Not
we've
so
had
long.
some
Not so long.
connection. Yeah,
But
yeah.
Tim, you've been in Japan for quite a while. Let's start with a little bit of your background. What do you do? What kind of an scientist, earth scientist, biology,
Okay,
all
okay,
that
okay.
jazz.
Do you want the long version or the short version?
I want the long synthesized version.
Well, and then it actually
So
depends on how much time you want to spend with us today.
well, I mean, that I think that's up to you. But I um yeah, my background is a little bit bizarre. Is probably a good word. I spent 6 years in the Air Force, straight after high school, and then when I came out of the Air Force, I was kind of struggling as to where I wanted to go, and went back to school. I decided to go to the University of Manchester and Manchester Metropolitan University, which is the old Polytechnic University, and I was studying environmental impact assessment, or with a focus on earth sciences. So um, tsunami, earthquakes, volcanism, and because I was studying in Manchester, well, there are not many earthquakes in Manchester, so so I finished my studies here in Japan, and then I met a lady, Tetsu, Kyo, right? So my significantly better half, and yeah, so and then by accident, I ended up working for Pfizer, um, in about 20 years ago. I ended up working for Pfizer, and then Pfizer, as they do, decided to close a research facility, and we created a startup company, a spin-out company. We took a few assets from Pfizer. We licensed those assets. We built a company. We raised about 100 and roughly 120 million US. We raised in a Series A, so it was a big 70 people, six or seven good assets, preclinical right the way through to phase two, and we raised yeah a good stack of money, and then we went public in 2011, um, and then about, I'm going to say, time escapes me, but probably about 8 years ago, I had the opportunity to become independent of that company as a business development and licensing consultant. Although that company as my first client, which was great, of course, because it paid the bills. so yeah, but generally now I work with US, UK, mainly US and UK and Japanese companies, and I'm kind of a marriage maker. So I help companies to create that first step of relationship, and then I also hopefully, as you know, see that all the way through to some kind of fruition. So that's kind of my business model. Yeah.
Are there any
Fantastic.
specific types of assets you work with? Preclinical,
Um,
clinical devices, or are you agnostic to that?
I'm basically a therapeutics guy, and I, my okay, it's a very good question, by the way, because you know I think all of our businesses are evolving, and they're evolving based upon what we can do and also what the client wants us to do, right? So um historically I'm kind of a small molecule guy, um but in therapeutics, sort of therapeutic side. But more recently, companies have come to me and said, "Can you help us with like a CRO business?" So mainly non-clinical research, fee-for-service companies, um, particularly in the UK. So Signature Discovery is a big client of mine. I love them to death, and I've got to give them a shout out, of course, on here. But then I generally work with sort of earlier stage companies in small molecule engineered proteins, essentially. I'm not really. I don't really have the connections in sort of cell therapies or gene therapies. I'm yeah. Does
Sure.
that
All right.
answer
Well,
your
what
question?
else are
Shout
there?
out to small
Yeah.
molecules, which are workhorses and kind of my niche area as well.
Well, I think you're right. I think that I'm a cyclist, by the way, and I always use this as an analogy: is that if you have a bike shop, the bread and butter business is mamachari, right? They
Yes.
these create your income, and once or twice a year you're going to sell a bike that is 1,000,000 yen, right? But they're not your bread and butter, and I think small molecule will always be that bread and butter business within the pharmaceutical industry, particularly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's that's
it's
funny.
coming back.
I haven't heard the
It's
word
coming back.
momachari in so long, but I guess
We got
for
to
our
explain what
non-Japanese
momoteki is.
viewers, momachari means like mother bicycle, like for moms usually. So
Yeah, sure.
it's the ones with the basket in
Shopping
front.
bike. Shopping.
Yeah, there you go. Shopping bike. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. I love
So,
that
now,
analogy.
But that is
now,
that's kind of where I am.
Yeah.
Is and a majority of the companies that I do work with are sort of small molecule. I mean, biology. I mean, where do you want to go? Science in terms of molecular weight, generally under 500 is kind of where I work. But yeah.
So I do have two more questions. So one question is, so now given that you're sitting in Japan, are most of your
Mm.
is most of your work out licensing from Japan or in licensing into Japan or all of the above?
Both. Yeah,
Both.
I think so. I work with actually I'm only really working with one Japanese biotech company, a company called Interprotein. That is they have an AI platform that is able to predict binding pose and binding affinity in small molecule protein-protein interactions. Very, very accurate, great. But that's the only Japanese biotech company that I'm currently representing. That is it a license? I mean, at the end of the day, and you know this because you have experience here, everybody's aiming for $100 million up front, and then we all retire and go live on a beach in the Caribbean, right? But in reality,
That's what I'm saying. I was thinking about this earlier. You said you took a company public, and then you said something along the lines of, we got to pay the bills. I'm thinking, if you've taken a company public, you don't ever have to think about paying bills. Isn't that the case?
Okay. I think in a dream world, Tetsu, I think you're right.
Okay.
But
All right.
and particularly in Japan, the venture capital scene is let's say rather immature compared to what it is in the US, right? So there's a gap. And of course, part of that gap is the incentive that venture capital get. Every dollar that they put in, then maybe they're going to get $1 back in tax, where that doesn't really exist here. So a Series A in Japan is, let's say between 4 and 8 million US, right? And it could be 10 times that in the US. But the environment we work in is a global environment, right? So you have Japanese companies that are trying to compete with the US companies, but they don't have the money to do that. And that's kind of where I sit, is to try and help companies deal with that. I think, so to answer your question about out licensing, yes, that is where I would like to go, and that's where a majority of my connections are.
Great. And then the other question that really came to mind for me was, you said you accidentally started working at Pfizer. And the reason why I'm asking is I'm really curious about this, because obviously
it's always an accident with Pfizer.
We'll probably have viewers at some point that are wanting to work in Japan, or wanting to get into big pharma, etc. So really curious as to how one starts accidentally working at Pfizer with a background as diverse as yours previous to that.
Okay. So I mean, kind of going back, I was an English teacher, right? I think it's a very usual first step in Japan for a lot of people. And I was teaching English for a company called Berlitz. Maybe you know Berlitz. They do like the translation sort of stuff as well. And our biggest client was Pfizer, and I had some interaction on a corporate level with their head of biology, a guy called Kurabayashi-san. Maybe some of the listeners will know him. He's quite a famous guy, and he said to me, just come and work for us. What's the point of you doing this external? So by accident, and I worked in human resource for a couple of years, and then the spin out company Laqualia Pharma, at that time the CEO of the company, Nagahisa-san, said, would you like to take a position in business development? And that was kind of my first, first part of the adventure, if you like, in terms of becoming a business business developer. Yeah.
Wow, it's quite a
Business
story.
developmentor.
Well,
Yeah,
I
quite a
think, I
story.
think, I think, and actually, I had this discussion a couple of months ago where, with a very good friend of mine, a lady called Juran Kato, who's CEO of a company called Jexval, and she was kind of making fun of me in that my career is very abnormal. Right? I mean, it's not a clear path from where I was right the way to where I am now. So, but I think, I mean, it's a good thing and it's also a bad thing. I'm not a specialist. So when I do work with a company, I need to go to specialists within that company, right? So, and I think that's within business development. Business developers often talk too much, and maybe I'm talking too much now, right? But I think they try to explain too much rather than going to specialists within the company and saying, I've got a guy that knows that, rather than trying to answer it. And I think a lot of business development people try to do that too much. If there's anybody listening in BD, by the way, but I think that's kind of the situation. Yeah.
BD is a very special position. I've been
Yeah.
trying to do BD lately, and it's not a specialist position.
No.
And like you said, it is a relationship position. It is a personalization position. It is a socialization position. It's network is everything, as they say, and it's can't be even more truer than in the PD
Yeah. I
position.
agree.
So
Totally agree.
definitely, it's not how deep of the information that you have, but how wide of a network, how deep your relationships are. I believe.
I agree.
And you were
I agree.
mentioning earlier, there's people watching and listening right now. Well, it is a time to give a little shout out, and I have a little comment from a listener who is listening in on the Mamachari situation there. So let's come back to the Mamachari. We have somebody who's defining Mamachari for us. So the most common bicycle type in Japan and maybe elsewhere in the world. Tim, you can tell us about the UK. Rental shops with simple bicycles for everyday use called Mamachari. Mamachari is the correct pronunciation. Mom's bicycle.
Actually,
Mamachari are typically
this
placed
is
in a basket. Yep.
it's actually another part of my background is that I had a bicycle business
Oh, you did.
for a short time.
There you go. In Japan?
Oh, hang on, that's wrong. Kayo-san, my wife, had that bicycle business. Yeah.
All right. So basket, Chelsea, simple lock, kickstand, in just one gear. Just that's the clear part. Just one gear. I don't know.
Yeah.
More recently, you've
I
got
mean,
those with electric bikes and.
I think at least for me, I like variety, right? In what I do, in what I'm not content with staying within the same doing the same stuff all the time. I'm not really kind of content with doing that. So I like the variety, and that's why my background or career path has been a little bit wild. Yeah.
Oh, that must have been the longest silence we've had since we started BioBridge. But sorry about that. Speaking of bio, let's get into BioJapan. That's what we're
Hmm.
here for today. So
Hmm.
I'm just gonna let Tim tell us about BioJapan, what kind of an event that is, who's coming, what to expect, and what's Tim doing at the BioJapan other than being featured on that on their intro video? Tell us.
I mean, I've attended BioJapan for probably the past 10 to 15 years. Of course, we had the break of the pandemic, but it's BioJapan has grown significantly in that period of time. I mean, I can remember the first year that I attended, and probably about, I'm going to say 2010 or so, around that area, and it simply wasn't big. But
But it's still at the
now,
same venue.
yeah,
Like
yeah, but
last
I
year
mean,
I joined for the first time since 2006 or
okay,
seven, somewhere in that. Well,
okay. But I think going back then, they had a small part of the same venue, right? But now they take over the venue, right? So it's a big event now. It's a big event. I don't know exactly how many, what the total sort of, the amount of people that come, but it must be
it's
10,000. It must
more
be
than that. It's
10,000
in the
people.
tens of thousands of people.
Yeah, yeah,
Just the
yeah,
companies that are signed up.
yeah,
There's about almost not quite 2,000. So each company
yeah,
brings
right.
people, and then there's people who are not signed up on
Yeah,
that
exactly.
platform.
Yeah, yeah.
So it must be in the tens of thousands.
I would imagine so, Tetsu. Yeah, I would agree with that, and I think it's so that the the big point about BioJapan is that when I first started going, it was a very much a domestic event. That has changed a lot. So I mean, again, Tetsu, you're coming to our event this evening, right? But that we have a networking event this evening, and it's 60% non-Japanese, right? And I think that is kind of reflected in BioJapan as well.
Yeah.
It used to be academic, and it used to be predominantly Japanese, but now it's not. It's big pharma are there. I don't know whether Pfizer will be there, but Amgen will be there. Boehringer Ingelheim are there. Sanofi are there. Eli Lilly are there, and they're all sending
Yeah. Yeah.
teams
Mhm.
from either the US or Europe, of course. So it's
Yeah.
it's a lot different than
So
it was.
we got somebody who told us it's 18 plus, 18,000 plus, not 18 plus. And there's interior professionals in R&D and BD and academics, uh, CDMOs, CROs. Everybody's there. Everybody's there.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
it is
It's
a
a big
big party.
event.
And I understand it's not the same company that runs Bio International, um, but it's called
No.
Bio Japan, and it's the biggest event of its kind in Asia, and it's a blast. It definitely is a blast. I hope everybody could
Yeah,
come.
I think
Um,
Tetsu, I think you're so. Of course, Bio International, Bio International, at least Bio Europe is run by a company called EBD Group. They're EBD, and I know them really, really well. But Japan has always tried to remain independent of going down that road. And JBA, Japan. Actually, I don't know what JBA is, but they're a good group of people who have a really good understanding, of course, of what is important in Japan. And actually, this evening I will introduce you to a couple of people from JBA, if I can.
It's amazing. Oh yeah. So tell us about your event. This event is happening just before BioJapan. Tell us a little bit about it.
So 3 years ago, I thought it was kind of a good idea to sort of bring a group of people together, and I just basically sent out an email saying let's meet in a pub in Yokohama on the day before BioJapan, and we got about, I don't know, it was 20, 25 people or so, and I knew everybody, right, which is fine. And then the kind of feedback from that was, why don't we do this a little bit bigger next year? So last year, we got about 100 people, a few less. I think 100 people signed up. And as you know, there's always going to be the dropout community. So we got about 90 people or so in a British pub. As you know, Tetsu, you came to that.
It was packed. It was
Yeah.
packed.
Yeah.
We need a bigger venue this year. By the way,
So again, it's just evolution, right? It's just evolution. So the event this year, we have about 130 people maybe coming. We have 4 very generous sponsors. We have can I mention the sponsors' names?
Of course.
Yeah. Of course,
So
of course.
We have CrossJect. I think you know Donald Donzin from CrossJect.
Yes.
He will be here as a presenter.
Crossing the Pacific as we speak.
Yeah. And then we have Jexval, which is a Takeda, originally a Takeda spin-out company. So Duran will be making a presentation. Then we have BioCentury. So BioCentury, of course,
The event company.
Yeah, they're, if you're looking for, Josh will be here. Yes, he's making that presentation.
There you go.
Yeah. So and
one more.
We have one more. Who's the other one? I can't remember. Signature Discovery. Yeah, Signature. Yeah. So we have Signature as well. So we've got 4 good sponsors.
Absolutely.
And but it's a lot of hard work. It's taken a lot of effort to get this event together.
I can totally concur. I've run, also accidentally, I started an event called Langfest in Montreal. And this is gathering, people who speak multiple languages, these language aficionados. And I started off just like you. Let's get together and talk about languages. And the first event was like 150 people, and then eventually went up to like 400 people, and and then we stopped right there. Pandemic.
So we a couple of people have said to me, how big do you want to make this? And of course, there's how big do you want it to be is more the question, right? So
You want to
I
compete with
don't want.
BioJapan?
Well, I don't want it to be. So I want it to be focused rather than big, because I think a lot of networking events, they lose their focus and therefore they have less value.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
So I don't want to go down that road. So the event we have this evening is around drug discovery and early development. So there's nobody commercial there, right? They can do their own stuff, which is fine, right? They can go fine. So everything is around idea through sort of phase 2. Yeah, but it's where the money is lacking, and that's the reason why I kind of want to put this together. So the science is there, but the money's not there. And I've introduced, so there
Is
are.
that true though? A lot of people say that, and it's also the place where you don't need as much money as of course, the phase 3, phase 2, phase 3s. And I do feel everything is for a price. The big pharmas go for the phase 2, phase 3s. They have the money. Then you got to find the VCs, the smaller VCs, the home offices, the angels. It's you said this right. You're a marriage maker. I refuse to sort of accept that there's no money. There's money. You just gotta go find those people and then make that marriage.
Okay. The,
There's a price.
the,
Everybody has a price. Um, and
I
a risk
agree with that.
appetite.
I think that
You know.
the real issue in drug discovery research is that the risk is high and the burn rate is also high.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you're in phase 3, then you have a much higher probability of getting a return on your investment. And
But the
in
price is high.
drug discovery, there's very, how many. Actually, I had this conversation with another of my clients, a company called LCC, which is they have a fantastic platform in drug discovery. But when you're talking with AstraZeneca, right? AstraZeneca, it's quite difficult for them to engage with a small biotech company that is 20 people, because that company may not be there next year. right, because we're in a very uncertain environment, right? You get 10 million or 20 million as an investment, but the risk is really, really high. The younger you are, or the earlier you are within
But that's chop
the drug
change
discovery.
for AstraZeneca, right? That's just
I mean,
how
yeah, you're
I
right.
Yeah,
see
do
It's
it.
you think?
pocket change. Yeah, it's pocket
Yeah,
change.
or do you think it could be a numbers game? The more assets, the better.
Well, it is. That's
Indeed,
exactly the point,
indeed.
right? I mean, but the thing I'm saying is that why should AstraZeneca go to this company? Because there are thousands of these companies,
Yeah.
right? So they have the ability to pick and choose, whereas the biotech company is not picking and choosing. They only have the AstraZeneca or the Boehringer Ingelheim. These are the only companies that they can go to really in order to survive, right? Whereas the other way around, I was working at actually when I was starting out in Pfizer, somebody said to me that Pfizer gets about 200 proposals per week. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I could imagine.
200
Just in
proposals
Japan.
per week of whether it, be a technology or an asset or whatever, but 200 proposals to business development per week. It's just crazy. So they have and some of the companies that I work with, I say to them, AstraZeneca is your dream, okay? But if you have a good technology or you have a good asset, AstraZeneca already knows about you. You don't need to go to them. They already have the ability to screen. They've got
How true is
hundreds
that?
of BD
How true
guys.
is that? Like,
Well,
if they get
they're
200,
using BioCentury.
proposals a week.
Right. So,
Well, that's where I think somebody like us, third party EDs are good in that we can screen those
yeah,
projects
I
and
agree
then
with that.
bring them to, if it's AstraZeneca, it's AstraZeneca, if it's Pfizer, it's Pfizer. We do that pre-screening and then bring the good ones to them.
Like
Yeah.
correct
That's their value
matchmaking.
proposition.
Exactly.
Yeah.
According to
That's
their need and according to the
yeah. And I actually, that's a kind of good point, is that honestly speaking, in a company of 30 people, as an example, you don't need a dedicated business development person. That is my opinion. You need somebody external, because my belief is that anybody in any company is BD, right? So whether you're a scientist or whether you're a human resource, your job to some degree is business development, it on behalf of your company.
We should quote that.
Excuse me.
Right. Anybody in any
Yeah, it's
department
BD. It's
is
BD.
ED.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting and coincidental that you say that, because me with a clinical background,
Mm.
right now I serve as BD,
Yeah.
and and it's like you said, it's like anyone can serve it. It's because any networking that I do
Mm. Mm.
ties back to BD as well, despite my background being more scientific.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so so a company, if you are Pfizer, right? Yeah, and you've got roughly 80,000 people, then I think you need dedicated functions within that organization in order to be focused on business development. But if you're a company of 20 people, I just don't feel that you need a dedicated BD function within the organization. And actually, I'm just giving myself and Tetsu a job here. But right, that you need somebody on the outside who is going to spend a day a week or 2 days a week on helping you, because we have the connections, we have the outreach, that it's quite
More
difficult
than the
for a
connections,
company.
the trust, the relationships that.
Yeah,
It's not
exactly.
just knowing so and so.
Yeah,
It's knowing so and so relatively deeply. Knowing that
yeah,
if this person brings something,
yeah,
it's worth looking at. It's not one of the 200, that you have to just kind of screen through very quickly. If
yeah,
if if Tim brings it to me, I'm gonna take the time to go through the deck kind of thing, right? So it's different. Right?
yeah,
No.
yeah. I've got you.
No, I wanted to actually talk a little bit more about the VC scene you mentioned.
Yeah.
How has the VC scene been evolving since 15 years ago to now? And do you see that kind of following BioJapan's pattern as well, where it started out as a small event and has grown? Do you see a parallel to that, or is it a different
Great,
pace?
great question. That's a great question. I want to know.
That's a really good question.
Is it
Okay,
it's that
it's
difficult?
quite a tricky question. So, and again,
It is growing, isn't it? It is growing.
I think actually maybe some of the listeners are going to disagree with me on this, but I
Okay.
think that the
Disagreement is good.
there are some. Okay, so one example is
Stumped, Ibrahim. What happened here?
yeah, you've shut me up, and that's rare, by the way.
That's pretty tough.
I mean, one example is Mitsui. So Mitsui, I think probably 6-7 years ago, they exited investing in biotech and pharma. But last year they came back, right? So that's part of the answer to your question. I think there's increased interest. There are some very interesting venture capital that have kind of sprung up in the past 4, 5, 6 years or so. AN Ventures is one. Axial Capital is another. My feeling is that the money is yeah, but I'm so I don't know, but maybe the money is not coming from within Japan. In this case, I think the money is coming from external. Although I'm not sure about that, by the way.
It's a trend. It's definitely money's flowing into Japan more than it's going out of Japan.
And another one, a big one is another one, of course, is AMED. So the funding agency here are making bigger investments now. So I think that there's money there. I think Jexval got a good AMED grant. Did they not? Tetsu, I think they did. And
yes, they are part of the AMED cohort.
So there's money about. It's just not.
It's concentrated.
Happening
in the U.S. too. Like it's people say there's no money, but that's not the case. It's more concentrated into a few companies.
Yeah, I guess in the US, what I could say though, it's the risk appetite, risk tolerance is obviously different year to year.
Yeah, sure.
And definitely this year, there's risk appetite seems to be very low. But have you seen a trend? Japan culturally, I think, is a very risk-averse culture. Have you seen that trend changing with the availability of more funding?
Well, let me backtrack a little bit because
Sure.
I went to a seminar that was organized by Nikkei maybe 3 months ago. I think it was in June, and I got talking with a US investor, and I won't mention the name because it's a little bit sensitive what they said to me. But basically, they said, we are in Japan to look for investments because we are not prepared to invest in US biotech at the moment because it's too unpredictable. And I mean, without going into geopolitics, you can understand why, right? So they said that we're in Japan looking for investments because in a Japanese company, everything's long term, but everything is stable, right? So because they think about it. a lot of the return on investment in US based biotech is 2 years, 3 years, right? When a biotech starts in Japan, they're thinking 20 years down the road. US biotech companies don't think 20 years down the road. They think 6 months down the road, right? So I think, that's an extreme example, but I think that is the case. So a lot of the stability that you get by investing in a Japanese company, yes, it's frustrating. Okay, in terms of, you're not going to get a 5-fold increase in your investment in 2 years, but it's steady. You'll see a steady increase. You don't see a lot of companies go south. They're all going north, but slowly. And I think that
That's
was
a great point. That's really a great point.
so. I think that was kind of the the premise for the discussion I had with this US VC was they were in Japan because it's stable. And the US is right now not stable, or difficult to predict. Maybe a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Volatility is, I think, the financial term. Not necessarily bad. High risk, high return, low risk, low return. It's good for every level of appetite. You just gotta know what is it that you like. Let's come back to BioJapan to sort of wrap things up a little bit. What are you going to be doing at BioJapan? What kind of things do you expect out of this event this year?
What am I doing? Sitting 30 minutes in a booth, talking with lots of companies, as you know. I mean, my schedule's fairly busy, so I've got a lot of meeting requests, and so I'll be doing the general BD stuff. Sitting in a room for 30 minutes, talking and making an initial presentation. But I think kind of just networking, walking around. I think it's often the meetings that you don't plan that go somewhere, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I'll be doing. I have a couple of clients here this week, and I'll be sort of introducing them, walking them around, making sure that they meet the right people here. And again, it's the people that are influential, right? So they have much experience in many companies, and they also have the relationships. I think so. Tetsu, you know this. So it's if you want to know somebody at Astellas, but if I don't have that connection, I know somebody that will have that connection, right? So it's and Japan is in that respect, it's very small. It's everybody knows everybody, right? in Japan.
When I went to Japan in 2015, I kept telling everybody in North America, Japan is a very, very small community. You gotta, don't do bad things. But then I found out in the US, it's also pretty small. Like, at the level we play, everybody knows everybody.
Well, you need to be careful what you say, right? Which is why I'm being careful with what I say.
but good, good reputation also travels. So although you take more time to build it, You can lose it in a day, but you got to build that reputation, right?
Yeah, of course you have. Yeah. Probably a lot of people know me. More people know me than I know people, if you know what I mean. Maybe it's the white glasses. I don't know.
They
Good.
are
The guys in
very
Japan.
characteristic, I like them.
Thank you.
All right, it's too bad Ibrahim's not with us in Japan for the big event, but definitely you're going to be there next year, right?
Yeah, we'll see.
Definitely.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But again, if there are anybody out there listening now, if you do see me around, or if you see Tetsu around, come and give us a chat. Yeah, it's that kind of event, and I'm really looking forward to it. Yeah,
It is that kind of event, and we are that kind of people, right?
yeah,
We're going to have a
yeah,
lot of fun over the next few days, meet lots of
yeah,
people, make new connections, and
yeah.
rekindle old connections. Have a
Yeah.
blast. Have a blast. Any final words, final thoughts, folks?
Not from me. I think, I've said all I need to say, I think. But thank you for interviewing me. It's been a pleasure. And good luck with the BioBridge. I think you're doing a great job. I think this
All right. Well,
is quite important. Yeah.
thanks for the wishes. Yeah, for those who watch BioBridge over the months that we've been here. This is not my normal background. I'm in a hotel in a lobby place, and there's folks walking around. But hey, that's how it is. I take work on the road with me everywhere I go. I did miss last week. Sorry about that. But otherwise, it's fun. Hope everybody comes for the trip as we cross various bio bridges connecting Japan to the rest of the world. Ibrahim, last word.
Well, no, thanks, Tim, for chatting with us. It's been, I just met you today.
Yeah.
A pleasure. I hope we could meet in person one day,
Yeah.
and
I'm sure we
hopefully
will.
soon.
Okay. お疲れ様でした.
And as we wrap up, we got a final comment that may just open a new can of worms if we can't go too deep. Hi, Tim. Specifically for you, what are the unmet needs that you see in the market in terms of areas, the pharma that are still not explored by us, not US, pharma experts in Japan, and how we can help
What are unmet
out there
needs that
capitalize.
you see in the market in terms of? That's a very difficult question. I think it's a very, very broad unmet needs. Unmet needs. I mean, so if you're looking at unmet needs, I think there are multiple ways that you can kind of talk about it. Unmet needs, whether they be therapeutic, or unmet needs in terms of investment. I think investment is a big one. There needs to be more investment in Japan. So I kind of agree with you, Tetsu, that money is there, but there needs to be greater investment in Japanese biotech companies. Is where I feel the biggest unmet need within, in the pharma and biotech sphere. Unmet need in terms of drug lag. So I think that has improved a lot. I think, I asked a question a couple of years ago to an executive at Takeda, and I said, why are you not running your clinical trials initially in Japan? So using Japan as the lead for clinical development. and he looked at me like I was an alien. But I think Japanese companies need to start thinking about leading clinical development in Japan or in another part of the world, and not always in the US.
So that's where that unmet need is, right? We need people like yourself who can tell, inform
I mean,
the folks from outside and inside
Australia's the good
that we
one.
need it.
Yeah.
You
It
know,
is. It is.
do your
For specific needs.
do your clinical trials in Australia. Why are we not using Australia? Because it's
And and I tell
I
folks
think
in the US, why not do your long-term talks in Japan? Like for the same quality, if not better, you can get it at half price in Japan now. Just by
yeah.
virtue
So
of the
that
yen
is the
backhand.
issue.
Yeah.
The issue, of course, is pricing. Is drug pricing, right? So if you go to the market if you go to the market in Japan or Korea first, you're basically setting the global drug price. And of course, if you do that in the
No,
US,
but if you're
then you're
doing
going
your
to get
long-term talks,
better
doesn't mean
drug
you have to
price.
start your clinical here. That's not what I'm saying. Right? For various
That's
service providers, Japan would be a great place to go.
I think it's
But
the
again,
barrier
we're
to
opening
entry, right?
a huge,
Can of
huge new
worms.
can of worms.
Yeah, it's the
You have to wrap this thing
non-monetary
up.
barrier to entries, and
yeah.
which is
So,
You're right.
where bridges like us,
Yeah.
will hopefully mend that gap.
We'll see. We'll see. I think it's a long road, that one. Yeah.
all right. Ending on some words of wisdom. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for another great session of BioBridge, and thank you for those who are watching. And we'll catch you next week with a report on BioJapan.
Yeah. Okay.
How about
I'll be watching.
Have,
Okay.
have a great day, everyone.
Yeah.
that? All right. Thank you. We'll
Take
see you
care.
tonight. All
Yeah. I'll
right,
see you
Tim.
later. See you later.
All right. Bye
Bye
bye,
bye.
everybody.